question. So when we talk about Starbucks, we're talking about the global corporation. And just for clarity, we can only speak on behalf of RCC Rand Capital Coffee, which is the representative of Starbucks in South Africa. So Starbucks, and it really is, I think, a culmination of 50 years of what really has been a differentiated company in the way it focuses on the people, community around the stores that have been created around the world. So there's about 35,000 stores around 80 countries in the world today. And it really has been a focus on being that company that gives back to communities and neighborhoods and creates a safe place for people to gather. And I think the idea of delivering excellence over such a long period of time has really resulted in this brand that has a tremendous appeal across the world, and it lives its values. So it really parlays into the next question, which was the second part of your question, which was the values of the company. And the values are specifically really that it is about being a world-class corporation, a world-class delivering of service, and while treating people internally with respect, as well as the customer with respect and understanding their needs. And it is very difficult, I think, to actually do that over a long period of time as you get larger and larger. If you think about the mom and pop store on the side in the corner right there, the owners are there, they're operating the store, they really care about their customers, they really hopefully do care about the employees. And as you grow and you start franchising, for example, you'll see a lot of the domestic brands franchise. Now you have a dilution of the brand strength and what the brand stands for, because each individual store is now driven by a different reason. And although it's through the lens of commercial success, can easily get bastardized and diluted. We're caring more about the dollars and cents and monetizing that moment in time rather than monetizing the future, which is building a brand. And they've been able to stay relevant with the younger community in particular by being forward thinking in their product offering, serving the right customers, being in tune with what's happening in the social economic environment that we live. And I think that has built over time and resulted in the strength of a brand that is Starbucks today that we have the privilege of representing in South Africa. So it's been, I'm sure our challenges are no different than anybody else's, really, right? It's been a very trying time for everybody around the world. Today I sit in Los Angeles, but I travel around the world quite a lot, and you can see the challenges faced here. And when I'm in Johannesburg and Cape Town, which is at this point once a month, half the month I'm in South Africa, it turns out, it's about how do you make payroll? How do you ensure that the people working for you, their well-being is being looked after? How do you partner with everyone, every stakeholder in your organization, whether it be the banks, the landlords, the suppliers, in our case, the licensee or the licensor, how each one of us can work together to get through this very trying time. And it is a lot about endurance at this point. So whoever can get through this trough and get to the other side, I think will do really well. But the stamina needed is getting far greater than one ever anticipated. It is going on longer and longer and longer. So the challenge has simply been, how do you make payroll? How do you, without customers, with our stores being shut down for 65 days last year during the hard lockdown, we had no revenue. There's no form of revenue. How do we solve for paying our bills? And that required a lot of relationship building with every single stakeholder to get through it. Now compound that forward, today's issues are all about supply chain. In large part, we're unable to get product into the country. When we try to build stores today, there is no materials available because the whole global supply chain has come to a screeching halt as people have repurposed their skill sets and found work in other places, or factories can't come back online because of the COVID protocol, so they're not as productive as they were before. So the knock-on effects, and the consumer and the average consumer may not be aware of why, for example, in our case, we will be out of stock. We're facing, for example, a cup shortage at the moment. You can't sell coffee without cups, but globally there's a huge demand and spike in demand for paper and plastic, and suddenly the product is no longer available. So today our issue is supply chain. We think we have great relationships with all our landlords and our other stakeholders that got us through this period, and I think we're positioned well, but those are principally the challenges we face today. Right. Okay. So our growth initiatives are rather ambitious. It is out of both ambition and necessity. It is a very cost-heavy structure, for lack of a better description. And while it may not be that obvious to the consumer yet, it is a process of education to understand what goes to coffee that you buy from a Starbucks. If you truly sit down and look at the quality of the cup, the quality of the lid, the quality of the packaging, the quality of the beans that go into the machines that generate the coffee, all the steps in the process or in this puzzle that lead to that delivery of a cup of coffee to you, right back from the sourcing at the source in the farms in Eastern Africa, for example, or in Indonesia, and the process and quality controls and the giving back that goes on at the grassroots level. So from a green initiative, it's more of a social initiative as we're giving back to those communities, those farmers, and allowing through our experience and know-how, sharing that with them in an open source platform so that other farmers can benefit from our learnings over 50 years and to how to best develop these farming areas and ensure the farmer remains productive and successful over time. There is give back there. Now, from a green perspective, we talked earlier about the supply chain issues and paper and plastic and the likes, and a lot is happening on that front to move towards away from plastic materials into more sustainable products. There is the introduction now of less almond milk and a nut blend, for example, that uses less water. So I know here in California, there's massive problems around water usage to develop the spike, produce the amount of almonds that are needed to generate for the almond milk supply, for example. Well, they're they drain a lot of water from the system. So that's a big problem from a green perspective to produce that. It's not good for the environment. So we've now shifted towards a blended nut milk alternative rather than almond that will be coming out soon as an example of how we're trying to, from a green initiative perspective. Now, I must say that's not Starbucks South Africa. That is, I wish we had the wherewithal and the capabilities to do that, but it is that is Starbucks Corporation, and we get to benefit from that. And at this point in time in our lifespan, where we are as we come out of a distressed environment, I will be lying to you if I can say we can spend a ton of resources at this point from a green perspective. But in our case, we are fortunate because we do pay for it indirectly by paying fees up to the parent company that then in turn generates the green initiatives that we get to benefit and bring into South Africa, which raises the overall standard in the competitive market that is South Africa. So now our competitors have to do similar things, and so it's accretive to the economy, to society, to the environment as a result thereof. I'm motivated at this point in my life by being, and always have been, being the best I could possibly be. From a Rand Capital perspective, the motivation is to build a sustainable, successful, best-in-class company in South Africa and Southern Africa. As my heritage, my home, my motherland, South Africa, has a unique, there's a nostalgia aspect to it, but it has a large meaning to me. And if there's one place in the world where I can make a difference, I do believe it is in South Africa. And there's this higher power, this innate drive to make and helps us South Africa be as successful as we can. And I'm a proud South African. While I reside here, I'm educated, I'm in South Africa. My connections are all South African. I am South African. My family is South African. I live in, they live in South Africa. So how can I give back through what I've learned through the base that South Africa gave me? And then I took that experience on my own. I came here and I've learned and now been able to generate a network that's allowing me to go back into South Africa and sort of live this dream of building something that is next level. So for me, it's about, I am a perfectionist, for lack of a better description, but it's not about financial success. I think that is an outcome of seeking one's passion and living out one's goals and passions. So I'm trying to accomplish that, and hopefully we are financially successful in the process. And of course, one has to be financially successful for it to be commercially viable. Otherwise, you're charity dependent on handouts, and I don't think that's very sustainable. So we're trying to do that, and that's what gets me up every morning, is how can we be the best we can possibly be, given this incredible platform that we've that we've been allowed to introduce into South Africa, meaning Starbucks.